Good day. This is HJT Views on current affairs. Today I read a news article which says that 97% of Indians who are eligible for taking the vaccination first shot have taken it. That over 85% of those eligible have taken their second shot also. Which brings us to a very important point of Indian behavior. The first point is that the Indian government and state governments, one must here bring in the states also because they have also done very well in with the center in fighting this pandemic. Except for the initial part during the vaccination, when some people decided that they could be foolishly political and say, oh, I will not take and you will not take and it's not tested out, etc. Once the momentum built up and people started taking vaccinations and people started talking about it to each other, the momentum really built up very wonderfully. And for that, first, one must compliment the state governments and the central government for having managed such a huge, huge health issue without having to use any kind of force. There were no executive orders of any kinds. There were no, you can't move from here, you can't go, except during the lockdown times. Except during the lockdown times when movement was restricted. Else, at no point was there any mandatory checking or forcing, or at least that I am aware of. Yes, certain transportation, etc., was made mandatory only for the ones who are vaccinated and so on. But India managed the vaccination program by its people and its government walking step by step with each other without the USA issue or the Canada issue coming in any significant way. And which really tells us something. And what I think it tells us is that at times of crisis of the nature that we have faced during the pandemic, the people of India do believe that their governments are oriented towards their welfare. And that's a very important comment that I'm making. The people of India, for whatever reason, you may say anything about the central government, you may say anything about the state governments, you may crack jokes, you may be in light banter, etc. But when push comes to shove, the people of India took a view, at least during this pandemic, that the governments are acting in their favor. And that was a very, very important positive that has come out of the pandemic. The feeling that the people felt that yes, whatever is being done, whatever restrictions, whatever lockdowns, whatever vaccinations are being requested and not being forced are for our good. And therefore, you had this marvelous response from the people with very, very little, almost no force being used to get them to take the vaccines. The second point that comes out from this whole thing is that the people of India are not fools. They may be relatively uneducated or not having the same level of education as certain Western countries have, etc. They have multiple religions. but they did not allow their religion to come in the way of taking the vaccines. I think that's a huge positive that has been shown up. People did not get religious inclined and religious in quotes at the time of vaccination, that this is not allowed, etc. They realized that this is something that is required, and they went through with it with very little objection. In fact, our logistics and our facilities were stretched to break point, but everybody just took it on the chin and moved on. People in the field, there were workers, field workers, medical field workers who have taken parts and who have contributed towards vaccination in some of the most remote, hilly, mountainous areas that you can find. But they still reached over there. And not only did they reach over there, there were people who were available for taking those vaccinations. It works both ways. And therefore, when it is said that the Indians don't understand and they don't realize, they don't have the understanding of what impacts them, does not, I think you can toss that argument out of the window. The Indian knew exactly what was happening. He was reading about it, he was hearing about it, he was talking about it. And when the vaccination momentum built up, he chose to be part of this momentum. The third and very, very important point is the absolutely classic role that our medical people have played. I think nowhere could we have seen the kind of medical upfront that we have seen in this pandemic. People have taken risks, people have been available, they have worked for long hours. But India today, as I said, has a fantastic record of plus 95% first dose and plus 80-85% second dose complete. It's something that we need to be proud of. So today, pause, think, and say, Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra, Jai Mumbai. Have a great day. Till we meet again.